Now, it's really hard to imagine a time when there were virtually no direct emergency communications on the roads, which I'll emphasize this several times throughout this video, as it's hard for many people to imagine life without a cell phone. It was back before the dawn of the cell phone, when there were car phones that only the wealthy or upper class had. But for emergency communications, almost no one had the ability to make a phone call from where they were standing. The few that could were the ham radio operators, or amateur radio operators, and they called it Autopatch. Yes, there was citizen band radio, but did they have Autopatch? Not to my knowledge. But many hams did, and I was one of them. This is the radio used for Autopatch, and it is rather large. Yeah, it fit in my hand, all of my hand, and this is how it served me, and the public. I lived about 15 miles away from the nearest town. The highway mostly went through farmland or residential areas. Every few weeks I'd come across a motorist in distress. Sometimes I'd come upon a car crash. People would be in disarray, trying to do what they could to help. I'd pull up and ask if they called the authorities. Typically they'd say in a pleading tone, "No, not yet. Could you please find a payphone and call them?" I'd say, "No need." So I'd take my radio, key the local repeater that was connected to the telephone system, and say my call sign. I would then dial operator, tell them I needed whatever agency it was that I needed, whether it was the state trooper, police, county, whatever, ambulance. And then I would give them the report of the location and everything, the condition of everybody, and then I would hang up. Shortly, emergency vehicles would arrive, and everybody was amazed at what I had done. They'd never seen anything like it. It was like if I was some kind of a G-man, because back then there were no cell phones. This was not something they would see every day. They were amazed. On another occasion, there was this lady who had broke down on the side of the highway. I stopped and asked if she needed help. She said her car had a problem, reached in her purse and pulled out a quarter for me to go to a payphone. She asked if I could go find one and call her husband. I said, "No need, ma'am." I let her talk to him. She seemed amazed and she was thankful. I felt good about my hobby. It had a role in public service and in emergencies. Why? Because there were no cell phones. Then the day I figured would be the worst day of my ham experience came. I came across an accident, pulled over and asked if I should call the authorities. Then some woman said, as she was pulling a cell phone out of her purse and waved it to and fro, "No, I called. I have a cell phone. Yes, I have a cell phone. I took care of it." I walked away thinking, ham radio may lose a niche in emergency communications. A few weeks later, I came across another accident, and I pulled over and asked if I should call the authorities. About 5 people raised their cell phones in the air saying, "No, we have cell phones." I knew it was the worst day of my ham experience. It was the dawning of the reign of the cell phone and the dusk of ham radio Autopatch. I'm not saying that this loss of the niche for emergency communications with Autopatch is bad overall. It did take it away from ham radio, but it did make it so response times for emergencies on the roads is much faster, and therefore the roads are safer.